I still remember the exact sound my mother's voice made when she said it. Sharp, cold, cutting through the diner noise like a knife through butter. This is embarrassing. Not whispered, not even slightly lowered. She said it at full volume, right there in the middle of Rosie's diner on a packed Saturday afternoon, while I stood there in my stained apron with a coffee pot in one hand and a notepad in the other. She didn't know I could hear her. Or maybe she did. Maybe that was the point. But here's what she definitely didn't know. That was my last day wearing that apron. My last day smelling like French fries and burnt coffee. My last day being the daughter she was ashamed of. And by the time she found out the truth, it would be way too late for her to take any of it back. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe. These stories matter. Your story matters. And sometimes we all need to hear that we're not crazy for wanting to be loved the way we deserve. Please comment where you are watching from. Let me back up. 6 months before that moment, I was 23 years old and completely lost. I dropped out of college 2 years earlier, not because I was failing, but because my dad got sick and someone needed to help with the medical bills. My younger brother was still in high school. My mom had her part-time job at a boutique that barely covered groceries, so I left. Packed up my dorm room, said goodbye to my degree in software engineering, and came home. My dad never asked me to do it. Actually, he cried when I told him. Told me to go back, that they'd figure it out. But I couldn't. I couldn't sit in a classroom knowing my family was drowning. I got a job waitressing at Rosie's diner. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was terrible, the hours were brutal, and I went home every night smelling like a deep fryer. But it was honest work. It helped. And honestly, I was good at it. I remembered orders without writing them down. I could carry 6 plates at once. I learned how to diffuse angry customers and make the regulars feel like family. Rosie, the owner, this tough, chain-smoking woman in her 60s, she loved me, told me I had a gift for making people feel seen. "You notice things, kid," she'd say, exhaling smoke out the back door during our breaks. "That's rare." My dad noticed too. Even while he was going through chemo, losing his hair, losing weight, barely able to stand some days, he'd smile when I came home with my tips. "My girl," he'd say. "My strong girl." My mom? She noticed different things. She noticed when her friends asked what I was doing with my life, and she had to say, "Waitressing." She noticed when her sister, my Aunt Jennifer, asked if I was still at that little diner. She noticed when people from our old neighborhood would come into the boutique where she worked and mention they'd seen me at Rosie's. And she hated it. Not openly at first. It started small. Little comments. Suggestions. "Have you thought about going back to school? You're so smart, honey. You could do so much more. This is just temporary, right?" I'd nod, smile. Say, "Of course," even though I had no idea when temporary would end. My dad's treatment was expensive. Even with insurance, the bills kept coming. Physical therapy, medications, follow-up appointments. Every paycheck I earned went into a jar we kept in the kitchen. Dad called it the future fund. He said it was for when things got better. I didn't have the heart to tell him the jar was barely making a dent. But here's the thing. I didn't actually mind waitressing. Sure, it wasn't what I'd planned. Sure, my feet hurt and my back ached, and some customers treated me like I was invisible. But I was helping. I was useful. I was keeping my family afloat. That should have been enough. For my dad, it was. For my mom, it was never going to be. 3 months before the incident, my dad finished his last round of chemo. The doctors were optimistic. The cancer was responding. He was going to make it. We celebrated at home. Nothing fancy, just pizza and sparkling cider. My brother made a ridiculous toast. My dad laughed so hard he cried. My mom smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. "I'm so relieved about Tom," she said. "Now maybe things can get back to normal. Maybe Emily can finally figure out her life." My stomach dropped. Figure out my life? Like I'd been doing nothing. Like I'd been wasting time. Like the last 2 years of sacrifice meant nothing. I wanted to march into her room and scream. I wanted to throw the tip jar at her feet and make her count every single dollar I'd earned while she worried about what her friends thought. But I didn't. I just went to my room and cried into my pillow. The next morning, I went to work like nothing happened. But something had shifted in me. That night, after my shift, I didn't go straight home. I went to the public library and opened my laptop, the same one I'd used in college, now covered in coffee stains and dents. I pulled up an old folder. Projects I'd started in school, code I'd written, apps I'd never finished. There was one I kept coming back to. A scheduling app for small businesses, specifically restaurants. Something to help managers handle shift swaps, time off requests, employee availability, all in one place. I'd built a prototype for a class project. My professor said it had potential. I'd abandoned it when I left school. But sitting there in that quiet library, with my mom's voice echoing in my head, "Figure out your life." I opened the files, and I started working again. Not for class, not for a grade. For me. Every night after my shift, I'd go to the library. But sometimes the coffee shop down the street if I needed caffeine. I taught myself the things I'd missed by leaving school. Watched YouTube tutorials, read developer forums, tested and retested my code. I didn't tell anyone. Not Rosie, not my dad. Definitely not my mom. It was mine, my secret, my escape hatch. Within 2 months, I had a working version. Clean interface, smooth functionality, everything a small business owner could need. I tested it at Rosie's, with her permission, of course. She was skeptical at first. "I've been doing schedules on paper for 30 years, kid. Just try it for 1 week," I said. "If you hate it, we'll go back to paper." She didn't hate it. She loved it. "This is amazing," she said, staring at her phone like it was magic. "I can see everyone's availability in one place? And they can request time off without calling me at midnight? Emily, this is genius." My chest swelled with pride. "You think other restaurants would want this?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Rosie looked at me like I was crazy. "Are you kidding? Every restaurant owner I know would kill for this. You should sell it." Sell it. The idea had been floating in my head, but hearing someone else say it out loud made it real. So I did something terrifying. I built a website, created a demo video, set a price, nothing crazy, just a small monthly subscription, and I launched it. At first, nothing happened. Days went by, no signups, no emails. I started to think I'd made a mistake. Then, 2 weeks in, I got my first subscriber. A small cafe 3 towns over. They'd found me through a restaurant owner's forum. Then another. A breakfast place in the city. Then 5 more in 1 week. I couldn't believe it. I was making money. Not a lot, but enough to matter. Enough to keep going. I reinvested everything into improving the app. Added features, fixed bugs, made it better. By month 3, I had 47 subscribers. By month 4, over 100. The money was starting to add up. Real money. More than I was making at the diner. But I didn't quit. Not yet. I had a plan. 2 weeks before the incident, I checked my bank account and realized something. I'd made enough. Not just enough to help with bills. Enough to actually change things. Enough to hire someone to help my dad with physical therapy. Enough to put money away for my brother's college. Enough to prove I wasn't lost. I decided right then I'd give Rosie my 2 weeks' notice. And not because I hated the job. I loved Rosie. I loved the regulars. I even loved the chaos of the Saturday rush. But I'd built something. Something that was mine. Something that was working. It was time. Rosie cried when I told her. I knew you were too good for this place, she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like cigarettes and vanilla perfume. I'm proud of you, kid. I learned so much here, I said, and I meant it. This place gave me everything. You gave us more, she replied. You brought something special here. Don't you forget that. My last day was a Saturday, the busiest day of the week. I wanted to go out strong. I had no idea my mom would show up. Saturday afternoon, peak lunch rush. Every table was full. The kitchen was slammed. Orders were flying. I was in my element, weaving between tables, delivering food, refilling drinks, making small talk with the regulars who'd become like family. Mr. Peterson, who always ordered the patty melt and told terrible jokes. Linda and George, the elderly couple who came in every Saturday and always asked about my dad. The college kids studying in the corner booth, who tipped in crumpled singles but always said thank you. I was happy. Genuinely happy. And then the door chimed. I glanced up, already reaching for menus, and froze. My mother walked in, not alone. She was with 3 of her friends from the boutique. Women I'd known my whole life. Women who used to pat my head and call me such a smart girl when I was little. My stomach lurched. She'd never come to the diner before, not once in 2 years. Why now? Why today? They took a table in my section. Of course they did. My mom didn't make eye contact as I approached. Hi, welcome to Rosie's, I said, my voice automatic, professional. Can I start you off with drinks? One of the women, Carol, with her perfect blonde bob, looked up at me. Then she looked at my mom, then back at me. Oh, she said, her voice dripping with surprise. Emily, I didn't know you worked here. Liar. Everyone knew I worked here. That's why they were here. My mom's face was tight. Just water for me. The other women ordered iced teas and coffees. I wrote it down, even though I didn't need to. My hands needed something to do. I'll be right back with those, I said. As I walked away, I heard Carol's voice, deliberately loud enough to carry. She seems like such a sweet girl. It's just such a shame. My face burned. I brought their drinks, took their orders. They smiled until my face hurt. They didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask about my dad. Didn't acknowledge that I was a human being standing in front of them. I was just the help. As I walked past their table to deliver food to Mr. Peterson, I heard my mom's voice. I keep telling her this is temporary. She's supposed to be in school. Well, at least she's working, another voice said. Diane, I think. That's something. My mom laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. Barely. Do you know what she makes in a week? It's nothing. And after her father got sick, I thought she'd use that as motivation to do better. Instead, she just gave up. My hands shook. The plate I was holding rattled. Mr. Peterson looked up at me, concerned. You okay, sweetheart? I blinked hard, nodded, set his food down carefully. Just fine, Mr. Peterson. Enjoy. But I wasn't fine. I wanted to walk over to that table and tell my mother everything. The app, the subscribers, the money, the future I'd been building in secret while she complained to her friends about my life. But something stopped me. Not fear, not shame. A better idea. I finished my shift like a robot, smiled, delivered food, cleared tables, Pretended I couldn't hear my mom's table dissecting my life choices between bites of club sandwiches. When they finally asked for the check, my mom didn't look at me. She put her credit card on the table without a word. I processed it, brought back the receipt. "Thank you for coming in," I said, my voice steady. Carol smiled at me, that pitying smile that made my skin crawl. "You're such a hard worker, Emily. I'm sure something better will come along." I wanted to laugh in her face. Instead, I just nodded. They stood to leave. My mom still hadn't looked at me directly, but as they walked toward the door, Carol stopped, turned back. Loud enough for half the diner to hear, she said to my mom, "You must be so proud. Not every mother would be okay with their daughter doing this." And my mom, my own mother, shook her head. "Honestly, it's embarrassing." The diner went quiet, not completely. The kitchen was still clattering. Music still played. But the people nearby? They heard. Mr. Peterson heard. Linda and George heard. Rosie, standing behind the counter, heard. And I heard. "This is embarrassing." She said it like I wasn't standing 15 feet away. Like I wasn't her daughter. Like 2 years of sacrifice meant nothing. They left. The door chimed behind them. And I stood there, frozen, holding an empty coffee pot and trying not to cry in front of everyone. Rosie appeared beside me. She gently took the coffee pot from my hand and set it down. "Back room, now." I followed her to the small office behind the kitchen. She closed the door, pointed at a chair. I sat. She lit a cigarette, even though she wasn't supposed to smoke indoors, and blew the smoke toward the ceiling. "That was your mom?" I nodded. "And those were her friends?" Another nod. Rosie was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You know what I think? I think she's terrified." I looked up. "What?" "Your mom?" Rosie said. "She's terrified of you." "That doesn't make sense. She's ashamed of me." "No, honey. She's ashamed of herself. And she's taking it out on you." I shook my head. "I don't understand." Rosie sat on the edge of the desk, cigarette dangling from her fingers. "You dropped out of school to save your family. You worked your ass off at a job most people look down on. You never complained. You never asked for recognition. And now you've built something incredible, something that's going to change your life. You did all that while she stood on the sidelines worrying about what people think?" "She doesn't know about the app." "Exactly. She doesn't know. Because you didn't need her permission or her approval to succeed. And that terrifies her." "Because what does that say about her?" I'd never thought about it that way. "You're going to tell her, right?" Rosie asked. "About the app? About everything?" I thought about it, imagined the conversation, the reveal, the look on her face. "I don't know," I said quietly. "What if she still doesn't care?" Rosie stubbed out her cigarette. "Then that's on her, not you. You don't need her approval, Emily. You never did." When I came back out to the floor, something had shifted. Mr. Peterson was waiting at the counter. "Emily," he said, "I just want you to know, what that woman said, that wasn't right. You're one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. And you've always treated everyone here with kindness. That matters." Linda and George approached from their booth. "We heard what happened," Linda said softly. "And we think you're wonderful. Whatever you do next, you're going to be amazing." One by one, other customers stopped me. Regulars I'd served for 2 years, people I'd laughed with, listened to, cared about. They all said the same thing. "You matter. We see you." By the end of my shift, I was fighting back tears. Not from sadness, from something else entirely. That night, I sat in my car in the diner parking lot. I pulled out my phone and opened the app's dashboard. 147 subscribers. Steady monthly revenue. 5-star reviews. Business owners sending emails asking for custom features. I'd done this. Me. The embarrassing waitress daughter. I opened my messages and typed one to my mom. We need to talk. Tomorrow. I hit send before I could change my mind. Sunday morning, our kitchen table. My dad sat at the head, looking better than he had in months. My brother was making pancakes at the stove. My mom sat across from me, her coffee cup wrapped in both hands. She knew I'd heard her. I could see it in her face. The guilt, the defensiveness already forming. "Emily?" she started. "No," I said. "Let me talk first." She closed her mouth. I took a breath. 2 years ago, I left school. You never asked me to. Dad never asked me to. I chose to, because it was the right thing to do. Because our family needed help, and I was in a position to help. My dad's eyes were watering already. I got a job waitressing. And yeah, it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what you wanted for me. But it was honest work. It paid bills. It mattered. My mom looked down at her coffee. "But you know what I did after my shifts?" I continued. "After spending 8 hours on my feet, smelling like grease, dealing with rude customers? I went to the library, or the coffee shop, and I taught myself everything I'd missed by leaving school. I built something, an app, a scheduling system for restaurants." My brother stopped flipping pancakes. "I launched it 4 months ago. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know if it would work, but it did. I have almost 150 businesses using it. I'm making real money, more than I ever made waitressing, and it's growing." My dad stood up, came around the table, pulled me into a hug. "My girl," he whispered. "My brilliant girl." My mom's face was pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" I pulled back from my dad, looked at her directly. "Because you were embarrassed by the waitress daughter. How could I trust you with the entrepreneur daughter?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "That's not, I didn't mean—" "You did. And everyone heard you." My mom set her coffee cup down. Her hands were shaking. "You have no idea what it's been like," she said, her voice rising. "Watching you waste your potential. Watching you settle for less than you deserve." Settle? I laughed bitterly. I wasn't settling. I was surviving. I was helping this family survive. While you worried about what Carol and Diane thought, I was keeping us afloat. That's not fair. What's not fair is you walking into my workplace and telling your friends I'm an embarrassment. What's not fair is you dismissing 2 years of sacrifice because it didn't look impressive enough for your social circle. My brother abandoned the pancakes entirely, watching us with wide eyes. "I work part-time," my mom said defensively. "I contribute." "You do," I agreed. "But you never once thanked me for what I contributed. You never acknowledged it. You just waited for me to become something you could brag about." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Silence. My dad cleared his throat. "I think what Emily is trying to say is that she needed support, not judgment, and she deserved better than what happened yesterday." My mom's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Know what?" I asked. "That I was building something? Or that your words could hurt me?" "Both. Neither. I don't know." She wiped her eyes. I wanted more for you." "You wanted more status," I corrected. "There's a difference." I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned the screen toward my mom. "This is what I've made in 4 months. This doesn't include what I made from tips at the diner, which I've been putting in the future fund. This is just from the app." Her eyes widened. "Whoa, that's more than I make in 6 months." "I know. And you built this? By yourself? I taught myself. Tested it at Rosie's, launched it, grew it, all while working full-time and listening to you tell people I'd given up. My mom stared at the number on the screen. I'm hiring a developer next month to help me expand, I continued. I'm meeting with an investor next week who found me through a business owners forum. And I'm looking at office spaces because I'm outgrowing the library. My brother let out a low whistle. That's insane, Em. That's actually insane. My dad was beaming. My mom looked like she'd been punched in the stomach. Why didn't you tell me? She asked again, quieter this time. Because I needed to prove it to myself first. And honestly, I didn't trust that you'd see it for what it was. I thought you'd find some way to dismiss it, or minimize it, or make it about what other people would think. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. You're right, she finally said. I blinked. What? You're right. I would have. Not because I don't believe in you. I do. But because She took a shaky breath. I'm scared. My mom stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the backyard. When I was your age, she said slowly, I had dreams too. I wanted to be a designer. I had sketches, ideas. I thought I could make it work. I'd never heard this before. What happened? I asked. I got pregnant with you, and your dad and I got married, and suddenly my dreams didn't seem practical anymore. So I put them away, got a job at a boutique, made it work. She turned back to face me. I don't regret it. Well, you and your brother and your father, you're everything to me. But sometimes I look at my life and wonder what I gave up. And when I see you, I see all the potential I wasted, and it terrifies me. My anger softened slightly, just slightly. So you took it out on me. I didn't mean to. I thought I was protecting you, pushing you towards something stable, something safe. But I was really just projecting my own regrets onto you. She crossed back to the table, sat down. Yesterday, when I saw you in that diner, I didn't see you. I saw myself at your age, settling, giving up, and I hated it, so I said something cruel. Tears streamed down her face. But you didn't settle. You didn't give up. You did what I never had the courage to do. You held on to your dreams while also showing up for your family. And I'm so sorry I didn't see that. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to hide your success from me. I wanted to stay angry. Part of me thought I deserved to hold on to that anger. But looking at my mom, really looking at her, I saw something I'd never seen before. Not judgment, not shame, fear, regret, grief for the life she never got to live. I'm not you, I said quietly. My life isn't your second chance. I know. And you don't get to make me feel small because you feel small. I know. But I also need you to understand something. I leaned forward. That waitressing job? It wasn't a failure. It taught me things school never could. It taught me about people, about resilience, about finding dignity in hard work. And it gave me the idea for the app in the first place. So, if you're embarrassed by it, you're embarrassed by the thing that made my success possible? My mom nodded, crying harder now. You're right. You're absolutely right. My dad put his hand on her shoulder. Maybe, he said gently, it's time to stop mourning what you didn't do and start celebrating what Emily has done. My mom looked at me. Really looked at me. I am so proud of you, she said. Not because you built an app or because you're making money, but because you're you. You're strong and kind and brilliant, and you never lost yourself, even when things got hard. You're everything I wished I could be. The pancakes were cold by the time we finished talking. My brother reheated them anyway. We ate together, awkward at first, then easier as the weight between us lifted. My mom asked questions about the app. Real questions. How it worked. Who used it. What my plans were. She listened. Actually listened. Before she left for her shift at the boutique, she hugged me. "I'm going to do better," she whispered. "I promise." I know. And somehow, I believed her. Fast forward 6 months. My app, which I'd named Shift Ease, had over 500 subscribers across 6 states. I'd hired 2 developers and a part-time customer service rep. I'd moved into a small office space downtown. I'd been featured in a local business magazine. From waitress to CEO, a story of hidden hustle. My mom had framed the article. She kept it in the boutique, showed it to customers, bragged to anyone who would listen. It embarrassed me a little, but in a good way. My dad was fully recovered, back at work, stronger than before. My brother had applied to colleges, using some of the money I'd been able to set aside for him. And Rosie? She'd agreed to be my first official investor. 10% equity in exchange for enough capital to expand faster. "I always knew you were going somewhere," she'd said when we signed the papers. "I just didn't know it would be this big." One Saturday afternoon, I went back to Rosie's diner, not to work, just to visit. Mr. Peterson was there, Linda and George, the college kids in the corner booth. They greeted me like family, because that's what they were. I sat at the counter. Rosie poured me coffee without asking. "How's the empire?" she asked with a smirk. "Growing? Overwhelming? Terrifying." "Good. That means you're doing it right." My mom had asked if she could come with me. I'd said no, this place was mine, and I wasn't ready to share it yet. But I'd told her we could have lunch afterward, just the 2 of us. Small steps. As I sipped my coffee, I thought about that day 6 months ago. The humiliation, the anger, the moment everything changed. And I realized something. My mom calling me embarrassing was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because it felt good, it didn't, but because it forced me to decide who I wanted to be. Not the daughter she could brag about, not the success story that made her look good. Just me, building something real on my own terms, with my own hands. Before I left, Rosie stopped me. "You know what the difference is between you and most people?" she asked. "What?" "Most people wait for permission to be great. They wait for someone to tell them they're good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. But you just did it. You didn't wait for applause. You didn't need validation. You just put your head down and built something beautiful." She stubbed out her cigarette. "That's rare, kid. Don't ever lose that." I hugged her. Promised I wouldn't. As I walked out of the diner, the bell chiming behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because I'd proven my mom wrong. Not because I'd built a successful business. But because I'd proven something to myself, that I was enough. Exactly as I was. Waitress, entrepreneur, daughter, survivor. All of it mattered. All of it counted. And no one, not even my own mother, could take that away from me. I met my mom at a cafe downtown, not Rosie's, somewhere neutral. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, 2 lattes on the table. "I ordered for you," she said nervously. Caramel. That's still your favorite, right?" "Yeah, Mom, it is." We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then she pulled out a folder, placed it on the table between us. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside were sketches, dozens of them, clothing designs. Beautiful, intricate, creative. "I found these in my closet last week," she said. "From before you were born. I'd forgotten I'd saved them." I studied the drawings. They were good, really good. Why are you showing me this? She took a breath. Because watching you build Shifties made me realize something. It's not too late for me either. I talked to the boutique owner. You know she's getting older, thinking about selling. And I asked if I could buy it. Partner with her, transition into ownership over the next few years. My eyes widened. Mom, that's incredible. I'm terrified, she admitted. I haven't run a business. I don't know what I'm doing. But you did it. You taught yourself. You figured it out. And if you can do it, maybe I can too. I reached across the table and took her hand. You can? I know you can. She squeezed my fingers. I wasted so much time being scared, being angry at myself, taking it out on you. I can't get those years back. But I can try to be better going forward. That's all I ever wanted, Mom. For you to see me. Really see me. I see you now. And I'm so proud. A year after that Saturday at Rosie's Diner, everything had changed. Shifties had expanded nationally. Over 2,000 subscribers. A team of 12 employees. Venture capital interest. My mom had officially partnered to buy the boutique. She was redesigning the space, bringing in new inventory, implementing some of her old sketches as an exclusive line. My dad had started a blog about cancer recovery. It was small, but it was his, and it was helping people. My brother had gotten into his first choice college, engineering program, full scholarship. And me? I was exhausted, overwhelmed, constantly learning, making mistakes, growing. But I was happy. At a family dinner one Sunday, my mom stood up with her wine glass. I want to make a toast, she announced. We all turned to look at her. To Emily, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Who taught me that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be? Who showed me that success isn't about impressing other people, it's about honoring yourself. Who gave up so much for this family and never once asked for recognition? She raised her glass higher. You're not embarrassing, sweetheart. You're extraordinary, and I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I stood, walked to her, hugged her tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. So much. Late that night, I sat in my apartment, a real apartment now, not my childhood bedroom, and opened my laptop. I'd been asked to write an article for an entrepreneurship website. They wanted to know my story, the real story. I stared at the blank page for a long time. Then I started typing. My mother once called me embarrassing. She said it in front of a room full of people, loud enough for everyone to hear. At the time, I thought it was the worst moment of my life. Looking back, I realize it was the moment I finally understood something crucial. The only person who needs to believe in you is you. For 2 years, I worked a job most people look down on. I sacrificed my education, my social life, my pride, all to help my family survive a crisis. And I did it willingly, because that's what love looks like sometimes. It looks like stained aprons and sore feet, and going home smelling like French fries. But while everyone else saw a girl who'd given up, I saw an opportunity. I saw problems that needed solving. I saw gaps in the market. I saw a way forward, and I built it. Quietly, without fanfare, without permission. By the time my mother realized what I'd been doing, it was too late to take her words back. But here's the thing. I didn't need her to take them back. Because I'd already proven to myself that her opinion, anyone's opinion, didn't define my worth. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about trusting your own vision even when no one else can see it. It's about finding dignity in every step of the journey, even the steps that don't look impressive from the outside. My mother and I have rebuilt our relationship. She's apologized. She's changed. And I've forgiven her, because holding on to anger would only hurt me. But I'll never forget what that moment taught me, that the only validation you truly need is your own. Everything else is just noise. I read it over, hit publish, and then I closed my laptop and went to bed, knowing that tomorrow I'd wake up and do it all over again. Building, growing, becoming. Not for applause, not for approval, not just for me. 3 years later. Shifties had been acquired by a major tech company. I'd stayed on as CEO of the division, with full creative control and a salary that still made me dizzy when I thought about it too long. My mom's boutique had expanded to 3 locations. She'd launched her design line, Second Act Designs, which had been featured in fashion magazines and worn by minor celebrities. My dad had turned his blog into a nonprofit supporting cancer patients with financial planning and emotional resources. My brother had graduated with honors and landed a job at a top engineering firm. And me? I'd been invited to give a TEDx talk. The topic: the power of hidden hustle. As I stood backstage, waiting for my name to be called, I thought about that Saturday 3 years ago. The coffee pot in my hand, the stained apron, my mother's voice cutting through the diner noise. "This is embarrassing!" I smiled. If she could see me now. Actually, she could. She was in the audience, 3rd row, center, wearing one of her own designs, beaming with pride. My name was called. The audience applauded. I walked onto that stage, stood behind the podium, and looked out at hundreds of faces, and I began. My mother once told a room full of people that I was embarrassing, and you know what? She wasn't entirely wrong. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Because the truth is, success often looks embarrassing before it looks impressive. It looks like working a job people look down on. It looks like teaching yourself skills at midnight in a library. It looks like believing in something no one else can see yet. I paused. But here's what I learned. If you're not willing to be embarrassing, you'll never be extraordinary. Because extraordinary doesn't come from playing it safe. It doesn't come from waiting for permission. It comes from doing the hard, unglamorous, unimpressive work when no one is watching and trusting that it matters anyway. The audience was silent now, listening. So, to anyone out there who feels stuck, who feels invisible, who feels like they're not where they're supposed to be, I want you to know something. You are not your current circumstances. You are not other people's opinions of you. You are what you build when no one is looking. You are what you become when you refuse to give up on yourself. I took a breath. And if someone calls you embarrassing along the way, thank them. Because they just gave you the fuel you need to prove, not to them, but to yourself, exactly what you're capable of. The applause started slowly, then built, then erupted. I caught my mom's eye in the audience. She was crying, clapping, mouthing the words, "I'm sorry. I'm proud. I love you." I mouthed back, "I know." And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. We had both become who we needed to be, not in spite of that painful day at the diner, but because of it.